Welcome to A1R Psychic Radio here on Moonstruck TV with Amanda Hall Psychic all the way from the Gold Coast here in Australia. I hope whatever your week has brought for you, that it's brought some peace and maybe some tranquility into your lives in this maddening, sort of chaotic sort of world that we all seem to be living in around the world at the moment. Nobody seems to sort of feel like we're making any great progress, do we? We take 2 steps forward and about 3 backwards. And let me assure you, here in Australia, yes, we feel very, very fortunate that we pretty much have COVID under control here for the moment. Fingers crossed. We've had a couple of major outbreaks in one of the states, but I know that there's many parts of the world where it's still not anywhere near looking like being under control. And look, my heart goes out to you guys. It's really a very scary sort of time. Nobody really understands or knows why the world is facing this crisis. Yes, there's many theories, and we can talk about that a little bit later in the show, but for the most part, we all are in this together around the world. We are all holding hands with you, and we're holding you in our prayers and our thoughts. So I think we'll get on with the show. So the card of the week that I've drawn this week, the Simply Tarot card of the week, is the Page of Cups. Now, the pages, the knights, the kings and the queens in the tarot deck are probably the most difficult one for people to understand, because they say to me, Amanda, how does this affect me? I've drawn the Page of Cups. It says a young woman up to the age of 25. And a lot of times when people take up the study of tarot, they're well over 25. Now, it can mean somebody up to the age of 25. It could also mean your daughter or daughter-in-law or somebody that's younger than you, but usually it means the secondary meaning, which is basic good news. Now, it's not necessarily earth-shattering. It's not world-changing events or anything like that. It's just some basic good news. And couldn't we all do with a little bit of that at the moment? Some basic good news in our lives, because our lives feel like they've been so out of control for such a very long time. So it would be nice to have some basic good news in our lives now. So I want to move on to the astrology section now, because it is quite important. We've been talking about it for months now, about COVID-19 and where I stand astrologically with the COVID situation. It's not so much that we've had any major shifts this week. It's more the fact that I haven't had the opportunity yet to talk about the planets that are going retrograde and how they're actually affecting each and every one of us. Now, the retrograde cycle actually started back in May. About halfway through May, we saw some of the major or outlying planets starting to go retrograde. And the one that gets the most press is usually Mercury retrograde, because it's short, it's fast, it's furious. It affects all our communication, including our cell phones, our laptops, our devices, any sort of communication. It's the time when people don't have their listening ears on. It's also the times when we only hear bits and pieces of the conversation because we're preoccupied and we're dealing with our own sort of stuff. It is a great time to spend some time by yourself and look at where your life's going and what you'd like. Now, I'm pleased to say Mercury retrograde will finish on approximately the 12th of July. Please allow a couple of days after that for the energy to sort of wind down and Mercury to get up speed to go direct again. Now, it's very, very interesting that the fact that Mercury retrograde this year is in Cancer. Now, anytime we've got a Mercury retrograde in Cancer, it means somebody's trying to pull the wool over our eyes, in my opinion. They're giving us the soft soap. They're giving us the most palatable version, or the one that they think that we're going to want to swallow the most. Now, I want to sort of backtrack a little bit, because we've got the Moon's node, which is the North Node, which is us seeking the easy way out as a planet or as a globe, as each and one of us individually is trying to work its way through with these other 2 planets holding hands with this. So we've got the North Node in Gemini, which is trying to tell us that by talking our way out of the situation or brainwashing everybody to believe what we want them to hear, that we'll be able to sort of bring some calm to the world. I mean, yes, that's good on one way if we're being told the truth. Are we being told the truth? Well, only you can make that up. Make your own mind up in that matter. But it's like everybody's having a talk fest at the moment. Everybody's got an opinion. There's so much stuff on social media. Should we vaccinate? Should we not? Again, it comes back to a personal choice. I think for the moment, I think we need to be looking at trying to get COVID-19 under control, and you know, hopefully they will create a vaccine, but let's just live in the here and now, and let's start to follow our local governance on what our local politicians or our local lawmakers are telling us to do for each individual location. Now, if we're able to do that and we're holding hands with the sun, which is the planet of where our ego and drive comes from. Now, the sun's in Cancer also, holding hands with planet Mercury, which is going retrograde. So it's really interesting. We're going to start to see a lot of people take centre stage, talking their way in and out of situations, trying to calm us down on one hand, but on the other hand, being very pragmatic, very almost negative in the way that they're sort of saying, okay, we've got to look at security, or we've got to look at this, or we've got to look at that, we've got to reopen economies, even though, you know, COVID cases might be going up, but that's okay. We've got to get these economies open because otherwise the world's going to collapse. Look, I'm not saying the world won't go through some corrections and won't go through some tough times financially, but isn't it first and foremost that we take care of each other? That if we don't have our health, we have nothing. That's where our wealth comes from, is being healthy and being able to make choices and decisions and to go to work for each and every one of us. So I think it's interesting that they're trying to appeal to our emotional side and trying to push those emotional buttons. You know, your family won't survive this, your family won't prosper, your family won't this. And at the same time, it's like I'll give you a slap in the face at the same time after I've just been sweet and nice to your face. So please be very careful when you're making decisions or choices that might affect you, not just in the short term, but the long term. Make sure that you're well informed, that you've really listened, you've really understood it, and you're making conscious decisions, and maybe have a conversation or two with a few other people to get their perspective if it's something that's major or, you know, something that's going to affect your life for a very, very long time. I want you to be very, very careful of that, because there is so much BS out there in all political parties right around the globe. And I do keep up with world events. I watch a lot of news from all different nations around the world, because I work with people from all around the globe. So it's important for me to have some sort of a handle on what's going on in your location. Now, I'd also like to sort of share with you, we have 3 other planets that are retrograde at the moment. And I know on the show we've been talking about for months the planet Jupiter, Pluto and Saturn. Now, the 3 of those are also going retrograde at the moment. Now, it's very interesting when we start with the planet Jupiter, which is the planet of expansion and opportunity, our higher mind, connecting us together as a globe. Now, when Jupiter goes retrograde, he is actually asking us to start to look at things from a different set of eyes. Let's sort of stop, take a breath, and say, what are we collectively as a globe trying to achieve? Well, at this moment, I think we're trying to achieve getting COVID-19 into some sort of control so that we can deal with it, we can stop people getting sick in the process while we're trying to develop vaccines and ways to move forward. This evening before I started the show, I heard that there's a potential another pandemic that they're looking at coming out of China, connected with an influenza virus that they're saying could be the next pandemic. I mean, as if we haven't got enough good news to go around, we might have a second round of something completely different. So this is not surprising when you've got Jupiter going retrograde, that it's sort of saying, okay, we've got to look at everything. We've got to collectively look at everything around the globe. And we can't just become complacent. Now, Jupiter retrograde will be there till about the middle of September, so we still have a number of months to go while Jupiter's asking us to correct and realign the planet, realign our thinking. Let's join hands. Let's think together. Let's not just look at it as an individual country or a nation. Let's look at collectively, what can the globe do together? We're stronger together as a united front. Now, this may also spill over into the Black Lives Matter, and I don't want to minimise that. I think that's a very overdue process that we need to look at globally, at how we treat our Indigenous or coloured people around the globe. They are no less than us white people. We are not supreme, and it's time now that we all joined hands and sort of started to make the world one. It doesn't matter the colour of your skin, the race, or where you've come from. We are all equal. Now, also in this equation, I'm going to bring in that we need to tackle globally climate change. We need to be looking at other ways, other resources that we can use moving forward. It's time now that each nation that might produce something or has minerals or has things that they're taking out of the ground, is there other add-on industries that they can add to that? Is there a byproduct coming out of what they're mining or farming or producing? And I think as we move forward through this COVID mess, I think we're going to see, and I'm calling it a mess because it is a mess. There's a lot of countries around the world that haven't handled it as well as other places have. And that's not because there's lack of resources. I think it's lack of leadership in a lot of places, and sometimes a bit of arrogance and ego getting in the road instead of looking at collectively what's the best for your nation or your part of the world. But anyway, that's just my personal opinion. But what I also want to look at here is that out of all this chaos will come some breakthroughs. And if that means nations and local places start to look at manufacturing or producing things or becoming more self-sufficient in their own location, maybe that's not a bad thing. Maybe we need to be looking at that as we're minimising overseas travel and our trading with overseas countries, that we need to all become a little bit more of looking in our own backyard and sorting out our own stuff first and feeding our own nation, and then we'll look at helping someone else or trading with someone else. Maybe not such a bad suggestion. So we also have Jupiter holding hands with the planet Pluto, and I've spoken many times on this show about Pluto in Capricorn, been there for a very long time, since 2008, will be there till 2022. Now, Pluto's nearing the end of his reign, so this means his lessons now really start to intensify. Now, Pluto will be retrograde until the first week in October. Pluto does spend a lot of time retrograde, so this is nothing unusual. But this, in my opinion, intensifies Pluto's clout. Pluto's sort of just regathering his strength. It's like reassembling his army and picking out the best people, the strongest people to march forward with. So be aware of that. We're going to see some strong arm tactics. We're going to hear some very strong words coming from people that around the world that think they're very important. We're going to hear people talk about, maybe getting their armies ready or sort of going into battle or using words like that connected to COVID. So be aware of that. There's going to be a little bit of desperation, I think, coming from people that may be ego-driven, that are particularly in the spotlight, or our leaders around the world. So just be aware of that. So listen very carefully to what they've got to say. Cut the BS and the spin out of it, and there'll be enough of that to go around. And look at what they're truly saying. Look at their choice of words and try and understand how does that affect you, and are they really becoming combative? Are they looking to go to war, or are they really sort of looking at the problems that we have in our own nation first? So be very aware of that. That's going to be very interesting over the next few months as we start to see how people really perform in positions of power under this buckling and crippling sort of crisis around the world, and how they're dealing with it and how they're dealing with each other. It will be a very interesting step forward. So finally, I want to talk about Saturn in Aquarius. And we've been talking about Saturn's role in Aquarius, where he will sit there for 2.5 years. He's also going retrograde at the moment. So it's interesting with these three major planets together, holding hands together, all going retrograde. So this is where we're going to start to see maybe some chinks in the armour. Saturn's the planet of discipline, the father figure. He's the one that waves the big stick. He sort of teaches us lessons. Now, with him being in Aquarius, he's being asked to sort of look for some innovative and different ideas, some different ways forward. Now, I'm pleased to say during this time of Saturn retrograde, which will be until the end of September, there may just be on a world stage some major breakthroughs with the COVID situation. I'm not going to say necessarily will they have a vaccine that they can sort of put into production, but they may just stumble across some already treatments or suggested courses of action as far as medically is concerned that might be able to minimise or reduce the seriousness of COVID and save more lives. I'm still very, very hopeful that they're going to find a vaccine and something that they can roll out worldwide and sort of try and get on top of this. But in the short term, we may be looking at some major breakthroughs from people thinking outside the square, looking at this through maybe a different set of eyes and sort of saying, what about this? We haven't tried this. Have we tried that? So just, that could be some very, very good news on that front. So I want to quickly talk about the candle of the week this week. And this week it's the candle of manifest. If I can get the label right. And it's the candle that I feel we all could do with. We need to be manifesting, I think, some positive energy, some new direction in our lives, and manifesting not just on a material level, but let's manifest good health for everybody. Let's manifest some peace, some calm, some clarity in our thinking, that our politicians around the world might grow some intelligence and start to think of the countries and the nations that they govern instead of themselves. Wouldn't that be a nice change? So I think that there's a lot for us to be thankful for at the moment in the midst of this pandemic, and I think we can all start to manifest the things that might be important to us. So the 3 candles I've chosen this week in the gift box, they're obviously manifest. We're keeping it along those lines where we hopefully can manifest some wonderful things in our lives. My angel in the sky is I'm burning on set for all the people that we've lost over the last few months, whether it's from COVID, whether it's from other natural causes or accidents or whatever. It's there for you to give you some sort of comfort to know that we are thinking about you and holding you in our prayers for all the angels that we've lost. And finally, the candle of love. I think we all need to manifest more love in our lives. And I mean, you know, the Beatles wrote a song about all you need is love. And I think more than ever, that song is very appropriate today, that we do need more love, more understanding in the world. So really important tough times as we go through life at the moment. We need to be sort of, I think, much more focused on being the kind and considerate person, as kind and considerate as we can be to ourselves and to our fellow man. So we're going to take Laurel, we're going to talk to Laurel in Entwistle in Alberta, Canada. Are you there, Laurel? I was going to call you Laurel Lee.
Yeah. Yes, I am.
Do you have a question I can work with, Laurel?
About my career choice, if I'm going in the right field.
All right. I'm not able to say to you that you need to be a particular type of profession, but I can certainly guide you through whether or not you're on the right path. When I'm tuning into your energy, Laurel, what they're showing me is that it's been a very long, arduous sort of road to get to this point where you are now, where you're sort of starting to sort of feel as if you're finally on the right track. It's like everything narrowed down almost to a point of a standstill, and now we're starting to expand things out. So like the road ahead is going to be wide and open and very clear. So yes, I'm going to say I think you're almost there. So if you've made some changes career-wise in this last 12 months, then that's a good thing. I still think there's a little bit more to go through, a little bit more to learn or add or study or add to this, but you're certainly on the right path. Has there also been a change of residence there, Laurel?
Yeah, like not completely, but in the process.
Right, because that was the other thing that they were showing me with this career change, or, you know, clearer direction in or around that was a change of residence. And I sort of also was going to say to you, that's a good thing too. I think whatever you're doing, keep going, because you're finally listening to yourself, you're putting yourself first, but at the same time you're still being considerate of everybody else around you that you needed to consider, but you're finally starting to follow your heart. And sometimes that's a difficult thing for us girls to do, Laurel, because we've got to wear so many different hats and please so many different people and be there for everyone that we sometimes forget about ourselves. So I'm pleased to say that you've got that into a balance as well. There's also, not often does someone come through from the other side in such a short time on the show, but I'm getting a female from the other side who's handing me what looks like a bunch of daffodils. Now, I don't know how to tie that in with you. I did feel she was an older woman. Handing me a bunch of daffodils is not a regular sort of sign that they give me. You know, normally they'll give me a bunch of flowers or a bunch of roses, and if they're pink, I know they're for your birthday. If they're red, it's a love interest. But daffodils is one I haven't seen before in this context. But I want to go to your mother's side of the family and maybe a grandmother or a great-grandmother. Was there one there, and you may not have met her physically, but was there one there from family photos that was quite tiny? She wasn't very tall? That you know about from family photos that go way back? Because that's who the flowers are coming from. So I can only take it that she's showing me those flowers because the yellow to me would indicate sort of brightness and happiness and the start of spring, as if we're planting new things, that, you know, everything's starting to shoot, which is good. So that's where we're going to leave Laurel. It looks like we've lost her connection there. She's not able to answer me on that. But I hope that you've been able to hear this or watch it back on the replay, Laurel, and you'll be able to place who I'm talking about. So we're going to talk to Sonia in Lenzen-Hensen in Germany. Are you there, Sonia?
Yeah, hello, Amanda. Nice to hear you.
Lovely to hear you too, Sonia. Do you have a question I can work with, sweetie?
I would love to hear about my soul purpose or generally anything what spirit world has to say to me.
Okay, all right. Let me tune into what's happening in your life then, Sonia. So the first thing that they're sort of showing me, Sonia, were you in an area that wasn't quite as affected by COVID as sort of like 10 miles down the road? Were you sort of in a nice little pocket where it was reasonably safe?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because they were just sort of showing me in this little neck of the woods where you were, it was like somebody had a big blanket of protection around you or the surrounding areas, and that's a good thing in the midst of all this, so that's nice. I'm going to say to you, I feel in the last 6 months, you've cleared a lot of clutter out of your mind. It's sort of like a lot of things that you were hanging on to that you thought were important, you've now sort of put them into their perspective places. You've let go of some things and you're now sort of looking at, I've got a much more pared back, slimline, purposeful sort of direction that I feel I'm going in. In some ways, it sort of feels a little bit too pared back. It sort of feels a little bit too clinical. It's sort of like I want to add some colour to it. That will come. I don't think you necessarily need to try and add anything to it now. By the time we get to September, Sonia, you're going to see and feel and know what the things are that you need to add back to this. It's all well and fine. You know, imagine we've got a minimalistic house where we've got basically nothing except the bare essentials. Well, now we're going to add some accessories, and that's what we're going to do to your life. We're going to add sort of like some accessories. I'm seeing a very, very big pink heart. So is there someone special in your life at the moment that you're hoping it's going to get more serious?
I'm sorry. What was the question again?
Is there someone special in your life at the moment that you're hoping it's going to get more serious?
Well, yeah, but that's not that important actually. Yeah.
Well, I'm just giving you what they're giving me. They were showing me this oversized pink heart, and I didn't feel it was a new relationship. I felt it was sort of the current situation was exploding in a beautiful, loving sort of environment, as if it was getting more serious or you're feeling more in love or something like that. That was also part of the changes that are coming. Okay. I feel 2021 is going to mean a change of direction or a promotion with your job. I'm not sure whether it means a change of job. I didn't necessarily feel a change of company, but I felt a change of direction within the company, which sort of comes in the form of a promotion, but it's also going to mean some extra study, some extra training, and it wouldn't necessarily have been a direction that you would have chosen to go. It's sort of like it's offered to you and you think, oh, okay, all right, well, I'll think about that. I wasn't where I thought I was going. So just have an open mind with that, because I feel that there's lots of opportunities, lots of things that are coming towards you that you need to be aware of, that, you know, don't just say no because you don't understand it. At least give it some thought. Give it, you know, look at it and think about it and say then yes or no. But I feel the next 6 to 12 months for you, Sona, are going to be a time when you need to be able to think on your feet. You know, when things come towards you, you're not going to have the luxury of months or weeks to think about something to make a decision. You've literally got 24 hours. And you've got to have to go with what your gut tells you. What does it feel right? Does it not feel right? And then put logic into it. And then that way you won't make a mistake. But there's certainly sort of, it's literally like somebody from above put a big blanket around you and protected you from what's been going on with this COVID thing. And I feel that that will continue to be. It's sort of like, it's almost as if I'm not saying do anything silly, but I'm just saying it's like you're being protected on many levels at the moment. So be very thankful for that, and don't forget to say thank you to whoever you believe in for them protecting you and looking after you, because they certainly have been. And, you know, and I think there's a number of people on the other side that have been there sort of like standing shoulder to shoulder to make sure nothing could penetrate you or derail your life. So that's good. But overall, I think you've got an amazing future ahead of you, and I think you just need to keep going on the path that you're on, because you're certainly listening and behaving and reacting to the signals that are coming from the other side and from your higher self. And that's the best that we can ask of ourselves, Sona. So if we're really in tune with where we should be, that's good. And that's what you are.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
You're very, very welcome. So, you know, we've only got a couple of minutes left of the show, and I just want to make sure that everybody fully understands this Mercury retrograde will go through till about the 12th of July or July 12. So make sure that you have your listening ears on. You pay very big attention to any direction that's coming from local government, local authorities on what to do and how to behave in this COVID pandemic at the moment, because every place is different. Everybody has different rules and regulations that they need to follow. But, you know, one of the major things that seems to be coming out from around the world, for goodness sake, get a mask and wear it. It's not cool to sort of walk around and think you're macho man or woman, that you can turn around and not protect not just yourself but everybody else. If you really care about your fellow human being, you'll do what you need to do. Wear a mask, get a pretty one, make it sort of your fashion statement, and let's protect the world. Let's knock COVID on the head by us all banding together and wearing a mask. So until next week, I hope you have an absolutely sensational, fantastic week. If you're in the US, I'll be waving my flag for you on July 4th, for the 4th of July celebrations, and I hope you have an absolutely fantastic weekend. Don't forget your social distancing, don't forget your mask, but remember to be kind to each other and be thankful for what we have achieved as a globe, that we're all in this together, and the sun will rise again, and we will all beat this, and we will all have a better world at the end of this. When we come out the other side, we will make the world a better place. So bye for now.